Right. Back this week. It's kind of been a big week. I'm going to have Sean join me. Talking all about debut tickets. Seems to be the hot thing that everybody's talking about. We had some crazy auction action this week. Feels like things are really starting to pick up. I see Sean is here. Let me see. He joined, so he's got to connect. But yeah, lots to talk about. We're going to talk about that big mantle sale. There's a request from Sean, so we're connected now. And it's going through. I know Sean's excited. He's a big Mariners fan. The Mariners are now. There he is.
Hi.
There he is. What's up?
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm just watching the Red Sox Orioles game. Really rooting for the Orioles.
I was just saying, it's got to be a big week in your world with the Mariners making a run.
Yeah, it's exciting. This only happens every 20 years, so.
I'll say it's kind of out of nowhere. They're kind of off the radar, and all of a sudden they start putting all these wins together. Now they're right back in the thick of it.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm going to be going to the game tomorrow and on Saturday. And
is the city starting to get into it?
Not really. It's not.
I guess
a while. I think it's starting to a little bit, but it's kind of late in the season, and,
right.
And for the most part, people are just waiting for the tank, but it's not happening.
Yeah, I need to see it to believe it, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I know we want to talk this week about debut tickets, and man, big week, huh? We had is that the biggest sale on record that you've ever seen?
Yeah, huge news. That was the Mickey Mantle PSA 3 ticket stub. That was the highest priced ticket stub to ever sell.
Right.
I think Alton Insights, they do a list, top 10 list, and their number one was higher, but it was a full ticket from a golf tournament back in the day.
Really?
Yeah.
So what ticket was that?
One of the Augusta. I don't follow old school golf that much, and I didn't even know the auction. I think it was some golf auction, so it was some obscure thing that wasn't really on my radar, at least. But it was a full ticket. The difference is that full tickets are different than stubs, and I follow stubs. I think that's kind of the main driver, because full tickets can be so rare that they can just explode in value, unexpectedly, and so it kind of changes the scale. And same with signed tickets, autograph tickets. That's kind of a different category altogether. If you because an autograph ticket, like the one that Babe Ruth autographed, obviously that's just incredibly valuable because Babe Ruth's autograph is on it.
Right, we saw the Luke Garrett autograph.
Yeah.
The Dieter autograph went for 25.
Yeah.
A Brady autograph went for 40. There's some crazy auto tickets that we've seen. But yeah, the fulls, I've seen like the Babe Ruth called shot full went for like 28,000 3 years ago, and there's only one or two. Now I'm thinking today, if that went, we're thinking probably close to 100, right? A full ticket.
I would be surprised if it went for less than 100. The shot, because back when I think maybe the last sale that I saw of that 2014ish or 15 maybe around there, it was 20 plus, and now so anything back then that was 20,000 would be over 100. You'd think now. It's hard to say,
right.
But.
I mean, we kind of talked about that mantle auction a little bit, and I mean, what did you think about that sale? What were you thinking going into it then after the sale?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. So it was a couple of weeks ago, right? We went over that, and you asked me what I thought it might end at, and I was in my kind of 2020 mindset for ticket prices, and I said maybe 30. Remember? And you said you thought it could go a lot higher, and I think you might have even mentioned 60. But 100,000 is that's crazy.
Yeah, I think we were both kind of blown. I mean, I was pretty blown away by it. I was thinking 60, 70, maybe 80 at the high end, but 100's kind of that magical six-figure number that we haven't seen yet. And I kind of know it's definitely more eyeballs on the ticket market now. And it is kind of interesting now that there's another mantle debut ticket up for sale on, was it collectauctions.com? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
historically,
go
I was going
ahead.
to say, historically, we've seen, it's a mantle, it's a 3 again, very similar ticket, right?
Yeah.
And historically, we've seen, when one goes for a really high number, you start seeing debuts come out of the woodwork or the same similar ticket, and people saying, wow, this ticket went for X. Well, I want to get X, so I'm going to put mine out. And usually it goes for a little less than what the original one went for. So I'm really curious to see what it goes for. If we see 100 again or more, then I'm like, wow, really, we are game on. But given that it's kind of on a more obscure website, auction site, it's another one. The debut kind of surprised us. That Mantle one going for 100. I'm kind of thinking it'd be hard pressed to hit 100 again. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be really interesting to see with the kind of smaller time obscure auction house, and their focus is hockey, right? And they have a Mickey Mantle debut, and it's happened so fast that it's almost like maybe the person who put it up for auction consigned it prior to this other sale or something. Maybe that, who knows? It might be owned by the auction house or something, but it'll be interesting to see what happens, because you're right. Usually when there's some incredible sale, there's a lot of people who are in on those Mantle debuts at 3,000 to 7,000, and thinking that they can turn that into 100. That's a no-brainer. So they put them out.
Right. Especially somebody who's looking for money.
Yeah.
I like the debuts. I really like that Mantle debut. It just has that nice look, and that's something we see with debut tickets. Sometimes it doesn't have that look where it's on the road or it has another player's team on it. I mean, this is a nice looking ticket with a Yankee symbol. It just looks clean. I mean, do you think that, how much do you think that goes into the actual sale price to reach that number?
I think that plays a big role, especially with the Yankee having the logo on it. It says opening day. It's kind of it's a special. It's a special day for a lot of baseball fans anyway. Opening day, April 17th. That's a day that everybody kind of recognizes as Mickey Mantle's debut. There are, and that brings up a good subject too, that there are some undated Mickey Mantle debuts out there. I know that there's at least one that was mislabeled, misgraded by PSA. It's in a PSA holder, but it's not. It's 1950 and not 1951, and it's one of those undated ones that you use the Keyman Collectibles guide to date the old grandstand tickets for the Yankees. Right. And if you use that guide, it takes you to 1950, not 1951, but it's in a PSA holder as Mickey Mantle's debut. And that one sold at, what was it? It sold in 2019, and it didn't go for very much because collectors who know what they're doing they weren't interested. So generally, I shy away from undated tickets for that reason, because you don't know for sure. There's guides that can help you with those dates, but you don't know for sure when it was, and so that's a big factor for me. It has to be dated. If it's a Yankees ticket, it has to be dated, or any ticket.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you've been collecting debuts for quite a while, right?
I have. I just added one here. This one, you can't really see it. It's in terrible condition, and let me flip the camera around and lay it down, because if I can. Where's the? Maybe I can't. Oh yeah, here we go. So May 9th, 1976, we're talking about Bruce Suter's debut. And Bruce Suter is a Hall of Famer, probably one of the lowest profile Hall of Famers in Major League Baseball, with all due respect to Harold Baines. But he was a closer and isn't anything. But this one's tough to find. I just added it, and it is my 40th Major League Baseball Hall of Fame debut in my collection. So I need to send it to PSA, but that one I just picked up last week.
And when you started collecting, how long ago did you start collecting tickets and debuts?
I started probably about 10 years ago. I think my first was Cal Ripken, and it was
right.
I showed this last or one of the other days, but it's the full. It's the one.
Yeah, is that the only one?
It's the only one that's graded. I've seen one other one before, so I know that there's at least one other one out there, but it's the only one that's graded by PSA, and it's a PSA 8. So yeah, tough.
I mean, what do you think? Like now, what you see with the Mantle debut. I mean, what's your guesstimate on something like that if you put it up for auction?
Man, that's a tough question because
I'm thinking probably at least 15, 20 now, right? But Ripken's an interesting one because he has his debut where he basically was a pinch runner, right?
yeah,
Then you have his first start or that started the streak. So he has a lot of interesting tickets in his kind of his of all the games he's played. So I don't know how much that would play a factor. But something like that I think is huge. Is if it's a full. And of course, if it's low pop, I mean, those are the ones. Anything low pop, of course, and of course, if it's a full, even better. Seems like what people are really into, and it could really drive the super high prices. I mean, is that what you're kind of thinking now too?
It seems that way. But on the pop report with tickets, I'm hesitant. It's a good guide to use, but it's not like with cards where it kind of gives you a standard, because the reality is when you think about it, people who own tickets, especially vintage tickets, they don't necessarily send them to PSA. That's increasing, obviously.
Right.
More interest in it, but people who typically own tickets, they're in their collection, or maybe they're not even in their collection. Maybe it's in a scrapbook somewhere and they're not even paying attention to it. You have to assume that there's quite a few out there that are not graded. I mean, obviously.
And that's what I'm kind of thinking, it just gets more press. Oh, by the way, BVD Club, I think we'll take questions at the end if anybody has them. And we'll holler at you. But I'm kind of thinking, as this gets more popular, more mainstream, we probably will start seeing more tickets come out of the woodwork. And that's what you're kind of thinking, right?
Yeah, and that's, that's the truth with cards also, if, for card collectors. Anytime a card pops in value, especially some of the newer stuff, then everybody sends it off to PSA to get it graded, hoping that it's going to be a 10. With tickets, I think that as they become more prominent, then I really believe that there's a lot of really good tickets in scrapbooks in people's basements or people's attics, that because that's usually where they're found, and a lot of times you'll find really good tickets and they have the paper loss on the back because they were in a scrapbook.
Especially the obscure ones, those debuts, which is always interesting because sometimes people, didn't keep it. Everybody keeps the Cal Ripken 21-31 game or the 500 home run game, but the debuts, and that's why they're so rare, right? Because nobody thought anything special about that game. It was just another day at the ballpark. We're having fun, come home, throw the ticket away, whatever. Who cares?
I know, and that's a good subject. The difference to me, and the reason why I like debuts, because I'm a debut collector. But I like them all. I like big games. I like historical events. I like milestones, the whole thing. I like all tickets. But debuts are especially important to me because it's the supply and demand. There's tickets that are high supply, high demand. Those are usually milestone, World Series, Super Bowl, the games that people knew were big when they went to them, so they saved them. High supply, high demand. And then there's the games that are low supply, high demand, and those are the real elite tickets. And usually debuts fall in that category because when the player made their debut, nobody was really thinking, especially vintage, nobody was really thinking, oh, this ticket might be valuable someday. I'm going to hang on to it. And so
I think there's maybe a few rare exceptions, maybe like LeBron James or, a super high player, especially like NBA or something like that. But yeah, overall, it's pretty rare to like people think, oh, wow, this guy's debuting tonight. I'm going to hold on to my ticket.
I think LeBron is the earliest one that I can think of where it was so hyped up that everybody wanted anything. People were clamoring for his autographs when he was in high school. Anything related to LeBron was big back then. So lots of. In fact, I looked it up. 51 total LeBron debuts and 31 full. So 51.
Right, and that actually surprised me a little bit that there were that many full tickets because one, you never see them. Like, I never see full tickets. I think I've seen 3 or 4 LeBron on eBay in the past year or two.
Yeah.
But you just don't see them. And it's like, wow, who's holding all these? Where are they at? How there's quite a few given the year. And it must have been probably where they either just scanned your ticket, but you had to take the ticket in, is my guess. And maybe sometimes they're ripped or not. I'm not 100% sure.
Well, do they have? Let's see. I have mine around here somewhere. But do they have the barcode on them? Yeah, they do. No.
Yeah, I don't know if the full does or not. But they may have ripped some, ripped not. But yeah, it's hard. That's in that era right there where they may have been scanned at the time, but PDFs probably weren't big yet with every team. But yeah, that's one of the debuts that has quite a bit of fulls, which is a little surprising.
Yeah, it's interesting. And not that 31 is a huge number.
Right.
Like I also collect cards, and anything 31 is incredibly small. But
I think that's what makes tickets so appealing too, is because in this day and age, you go to a pop report on a Luca Prism base, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands. If you go to a Luca debut ticket, there's like 6 or 8. I don't even know how many, but I think it's less than 10. I know that.
Yeah.
Which makes it, and it seems like this day and age, it's all about rarity. And some of these tickets are so rare that, like I said, supply and demand. And ticket supplies are so low, especially from the early, pre-90s. I wanted to ask you, what do you think of what's going on with debut tickets and the pricing? I mean, do you think this is something that's sustainable? Have we just seen the beginning of the run-up? Because it seems like everything these days has gone up. Like anything from cards to Rolexes to NFTs. You name it, it's gone up. And it seems like people are starting to now kind of move over to the ticket realm. And it's kind of crazy because the debuts are the ones where all the money seems to be going into, at least the big money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think that a lot of people connect it to rookie cards, obviously. For me, It's more about the first. The first in anything collectible is always the most sought after. Like, for example, comic books. The first in the series of comic book. The first comic book where Superman made his debut, right? Like, goes for $3 million. Otherwise, it's not that important of a comic book, as far as I know. I'm not a comic book collector, but that's kind of my understanding of it. So usually the first is always important, and same with rookie cards, right? Like that's the reason why rookie cards are so hyped up, because back in the day, before there's a million rookie cards printed of guys, I mean, how many rookie cards are there today of any random player in different variations and different subsets and all that? But back in the day, there was 1 and maybe 2, and those were the rookie, and they were worth the most because it was presumed that when they were printed, it wasn't as understood how great that player would be. And so they wouldn't stay in as good condition and all of that. And it's the same with tickets. So it kind of gets back to that old school way of thinking, and, makes it just that much more valuable. And that's not to say that the big events aren't important, because I'm a fan of big events and quirky events and all of it. But it's rare that you find tickets that are high demand, low supply, and that's mainly what I focus on. So
yeah, it seems like you're a collector of a big player nowadays. You can get his game worn jersey or signature, his rookie card. Now it almost seems like tickets are such a natural fit. If you're a Jordan guy and you got money to burn, it seems like, wow, if I could get a Jordan debut, I want it. A Jordan PSA 10 rookie card, what do we have, about 250,000-300,000, and there's 300 or 400 of them. Jordan debut, I believe there's around 20. That's the other thing I want to talk about debuts, because they're not all the same. All the tickets are not the same.
Yeah.
You have the fulls and the stubs, right? Well, for Jordan, I think we all think the greatest Jordan debut ticket is the red and black, correct?
Definitely.
And then after that, there's a blue and white that kind of looks like the red and black one, but doesn't have the Bulls logo.
Yeah.
There's a box office one, and then there's a Ticketron run. Yeah. And the problem with the PSA pop reports, it doesn't differentiate between, this one's the red and black season ticket holder one, and this one's the Ticketron run.
Yeah.
I mean, I think anybody who's into tickets would say, I'd rather have the red and black one that's an authentic or a 2 than the Ticketron one that's an 8.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with me on that?
Oh, for sure. And they do actually differentiate between the Ticketron because they just started grading them. And so now, and I just looked it up, but the Jordan there's 24 regular ones. That includes both blue and red. And then there's 3 Ticketrons. And obviously the Ticketron ones are going to be more common because there's a lot of them that haven't been graded yet. But it's true. I have the Jordan Debut right here, blue version. And
I have the other one, the blue and white.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like the season ticket holder one,
right?
But it's not the red and black. And of course, I love this. I think it's a great ticket, but I'm like, I want the red and black one because that's the best one. But I can't, I can't complain because I got the second best one in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. I bought mine on eBay in 2013, and so you can imagine I paid $760 for it. And back then, I thought, oh my God,
that's the crazy thing. Even when we were buying tickets now that have increased tenfold, I just sweating some purchase saying, oh my gosh, I'm paying $600-800 for this ticket. It's 10, maybe 10x. And I think to myself, well, is it still like this? Even though I'm sweating these higher price debut tickets, are they, how high can it go? And that's the question that, I don't think anybody really knows how, what the price ceiling on some of these debut tickets are.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's, something that happens in markets where it starts to get, it starts to explode in price. And it's usually because there's a flood of people getting into it, and they're getting into it for the purpose of making money.
Right. The speculators start coming in.
Speculating. And so I'm a little bit concerned about that because as soon as you start to get to where there's more speculators than there are collectors, the people who actually want them for their collection, then the prices start to just escalate irrationally, and then you have a bubble. So
and that's what I kind of felt with when I started tickets initially, and still maybe not as much, where ticket collectors seem to be 80% of the market and speculators are 20, where I feel like in the card world it's more flipped. Like more people are buying to look to sell and not buying to say, man, I love this card, I want to hold it forever and be in my PC. Mm-hmm. But on the ticket collector side, I feel like there's more of those type collectors that say, man, I want to buy this ticket and I just want to keep it because I love it and I don't ever want to sell it. Right. And that's what I kind of see with a lot of tickets. I used to see a lot of the same type tickets, a good example is Ali Frazier tickets, something like that. I used to see them quite a bit, and then they're just gone. And that means like people have bought them and they have no intention of reselling them again. And you see that, you've probably seen that with other like debut tickets. We used to see them like every couple months, 6 months, and now you never see them again. Like they just disappeared.
Yeah, because they're collectors who are buying them, not flip. And that's and I agree with you. It seems like that's how it was, but it seems like that's kind of changing a little bit. You're seeing a lot more people who are in it for the quick flip or the business aspect of it. Mm-hmm. A little bit more, maybe an effort to make money on it. And not that they're doing that with all of it. They probably collect also, but a lot of what they're going after is for the purpose of reselling. And I'm seeing that a lot with signed tickets also, where somebody will buy a debut just for the purpose of getting it signed because, you can always get them signed. And then resell it because the signed tickets are going for so much more, and they see that, so it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of signed, I actually got a few back.
Oh yeah,
and it's the things I don't like cherish, so I'll flip the camera around. So I got this Bo debut signed, Bo Jackson football debut. If it was a full and it was a high pop. I think I would have maybe not got it signed, but since, it's cut off there and, I kind of always loved Bo and interested in getting his signature. So, I got something like that. And I've kind of learned with autographs, you really have to do your research. What color ink do you want? How big is his signature? Will it fit on the ticket? How will it look? I kind of made a mistake with this ticket. So this is the Cal Ripken Jr. that you actually traded me. Like I said, I'm not a huge Cal fan. And I wanted to get it black ink. Then I changed my mind to blue. Then I changed it. I told them to switch it back, but they didn't. And they signed it. And as you can see, it's okay. But I think blue would have been better. It still looks okay. But it's all about knowing, like, okay, the ink color, how's it going to look? Is it going to blend in with the ticket? I still like the look, and I'll probably still continue to do that. But I've kind of learned a lot where you really have to do your research, being like, okay, all those different factors to make that ticket, look nice.
Yeah. The autographs, that's something that I'm not familiar with, that whole process. How do you find the private signings, and how long does it take?
Yeah, like on Facebook groups, there's different Facebook groups that post all the football signings. I can't remember the names off the top of my head. I think it's just like football private signing. There's a group, basketball private signing. And they post when and how much, and you just mail them in and they get them to sign. Pretty easy process. Of course, there always could be some hiccups, but it's kind of nice if you have a nice ticket and you're like, man, I want to get this signed. You just kind of wait. I know, like, a good example is like John Elway's doing a signing. I'm kind of debating because you have an Elway debut and I have an Elway debut, and I think there's only like 3 or 4, but we may have 2 of the 3, right? Don't you have an Elway?
Yeah, I do, and it's also a really small ticket. Is that something you're concerned about? Like when it's so small?
Yeah, like that's the thing. Look how small it is. It's black. So would I get it signed with a white or a gray, right in that little black area right in here? How big the signature?
Yeah.
So all that kind of goes into it. I really like that ticket. It's pretty rare. But like something like that, I think, are the ideal tickets these days, or the low pop, iconic type players. I think those are just great. Those are ones that are really holding their value, and we're seeing a large increase.
Yeah, it's true. But it's also true that they could, that's where the supply demand conversation comes back in, because as more people realize that they're valuable, they suddenly start getting cracked out and sent in.
Yeah, I think anything probably like pre-60s, you got to figure, man, I don't know how many of those were lying around, but I guess we could see more 80s and 90s and 2000s where people really have, they're not at that age where they're going to the retirement home and their stuff's getting cleaned out of their house. It's probably still buried somewhere.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting in the next, 2 to 3 years, how many more tickets, start randomly showing up in the market, raw tickets. And you're like, wow, I haven't seen one of those in a while. This is interesting.
Yeah. As the prices escalate, it's just like we talked about with the mantle, speculating when the next one's gonna come out and what it's gonna go for. And now It's already out. And last time I looked at it today, it was 5,500. What do you think that one's gonna go for?
Man, I was talking to another guy. I think King of Cards. He's on here, and I'm thinking, I don't think it'll reach the 100,000 mark just because it's on a it's not on Golden or Heritage. It's the second one. Historically, once another one comes up again, it usually doesn't go for as much. But I'm still thinking probably 50, 60, 70, something like that. It's a nice ticket, the 3. That's probably my guesstimate. It could be 80, 90. Like I said, if it goes over 100, I'll be like, wow, things are really blowing up. Because that would definitely surprise me.
Yeah, because it only takes two bidders,
right. 2 bidders to get it going.
Refuse to lose it, yeah. So
what is if you had to rank your top debut tickets, what would be your top 5?
My top 5?
Yeah. Your not your personal collection, but what you think of all of the top debuts out there
that actually exist, that we know exists.
That we know are out there.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, like a Babe Ruth debut. Doesn't exist, but obviously if it did, it would be in anybody's top list.
Right.
So my number one, as you know, and we've talked about this before, is the Jackie Robinson debut. I don't think that there's anything more important. I don't think that there's any ticket more celebrated in terms of the game, and it becomes a more increasingly important game as time goes on. Like every year, this day, April 15th, is a holiday almost in Major League Baseball. Everybody wears number 42, and it's celebrated. So it's just every year it's a reminder of that, and so it's never going to be not important. So to me, that's the number one.
Yeah, I mean that's not just baseball history; it's American history.
Right. And so beyond that, it's tough. I really like the Jordan Red debut, and like you, I wish that it was differentiated in the PSA Pop Report, because I think that there's only a handful. I know that there's some raw out there. I know of at least one collector who doesn't really get tickets graded, and he has two of them.
Right.
So two of the red. So they're out there, but that's got to be on the list if you were doing like a Mount Rushmore of debut tickets. And then obviously the Mantle. I never really thought highly of the Mantle before, because it is a little bit of a higher pop because it's an opening day. I looked it up, and there's 17 of them right now. And like I said, there's one that's not legit. So to me, there's 16. Probably a lot more will hit now that they're so valuable. And before, like back 5 years ago, it was a $3,000, $4,000 ticket when other tickets were going for a lot more. So it wasn't as hyped up. But now it is. Times change. So I definitely put that one on the list. I'm more of a baseball guy. I know that, people might argue with me on basketball versus baseball, but I do have one of the big basketball ones. There's only 3 of these, and it is Kareem's debut, Lou Alcindor.
That's a big one.
What's that?
I said that's a big one.
Yeah, that one. There's only 3, and this is the highest grade. It's a PSA 4. But
what you have what are the other big ones you have? You have the Nolan, right?
I have the highest graded Nolan Ryan debut. It's a 6. That's there's 6 of those, I think. There's 6 of them, and that's September 11th, 1966. I think, 66. And so it wasn't a game in the season, because I think he came in relief. He got a strikeout. So it wasn't a game that anybody really thought was important for any reason. So there's not that many out there. That's why that one's pretty cool. I have a Mantle, but mine has paper loss on the front, if you can see it. I don't know how that happened, but paper loss is no. I don't really. But now I'm just happy to have a copy of it. Actually, this is one of my favorites. It's Roy Campanella debut, and there's only 2 of these. And Roy Campanella is one of the most underrated players in baseball. He a catcher, and he played in the Negro Leagues for, I think, 8 or 9 years before he even made it to the majors. And he was a catcher MVP 3 times in his career, which is unheard of. But there's only 2 of those, Roy Campanella. And here's my...
Most of these ones that you're showing, how long ago did you buy them?
This one, the Campanella, I actually got in a trade, and I had to trade a really, really good ticket for it. And I got some other stuff too, but that was the main thing in the trade. So, I mean, at this point in my collecting, most of the really good stuff I can't afford. I'm priced out, but I'm still into trading, and I'm always happy to trade. If I feel like I can get something that I won't otherwise be able to get.
What do you think of preseason debuts, like for NFL, NBA preseason debuts?
That was something I was gonna bring up. So there's preseason. Let's go over all the different types of debuts. There's preseason. There's minor league. There's college. And then of course there's major league debut,
right,
which is kind of the most popular one. And then there's the new team debut, when a player goes to a new team. To me, the only one that I even really pay attention to is the Major League debut. That's the rookie card, so to speak. Maybe a preseason you might relate to like a minor league card almost in terms of baseball cards. Same with the college debut. I know that some people are into them and they definitely have collectability, but it's not something I really, because to me preseason is not a real game. I'm more of a baseball fan, and in baseball preseason is literally an exhibition. It's not, right. It means nothing. I mean, like Will Ferrell played in preseason games. but it's nothing.
I think if I had to rank them, I guess for the NFL, I would say, of course, NFL regular season debut, preseason, and college. I do feel like NBA and NFL preseason does have some value. NFL, that's the first time they ever step on a field. Competition, I mean, it's not, I feel like, it's preseason, but, that's first time in their uniform. It's first time you get to see them on the field. There's always a little excitement when that new quarterback, you get to see him in action for your team. NBA can always be a little tricky. They may have some weird games. I still think they have a little value. I know that LeBron preseason debut definitely has some value. I have some Luka debuts preseason. I do collect them. I like them, but of course, I definitely had regular season right here, preseason next, and then college. I almost kind of see it like the card collectors, the college cards. I think it's kind of the same with tickets. Like I don't. Kind of cool, Mahomes, maybe college debut, maybe the biggest of big guys.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't really collect much of the college debuts. It's just it's a bit much for me.
I like that parallel with college cards. The Mahomes one is interesting though, because there are so few, if any, of his major league or his NFL debut, because they were digital, and so that might be the next best thing. The college debut. Yeah,
that Mahomes, if we ranked him, I think I've seen it before. Maybe somebody posted it, but I think there's one or two, and it was in Denver, I believe, right? It's just kind of a Denver box office ticket. It's pretty nice looking. And that's kind of similar to what's going on these days, where if you want a ticket, you got to hustle and find the box office and get you to get him a printout, which makes it kind of fun, interesting, because the supply is insanely low still, but you work hard enough. Like I think I saw Miguel Cabrera 500 pop up. They're like MLB's doing an auction. I didn't think those existed. His 500th home run.
Yeah, some of those, and it's happening. Unfortunately, some teams are understanding there's value there, so then they're printing it after the fact, or printing a souvenir ticket and selling them on their websites. To me, I have no interest in anything like that. That's not even a ticket. It has to, the test for a ticket is that it has to have been able to achieve entry to see the event when it occurred, and print after the fact. So the Mariners do this sometimes too, and with a couple of the Jared Kelenic debuts, you saw it that were on eBay, where in the bottom left-hand corner of the ticket, it has the print date. And the print date's actually after the date of the game. And so that's nothing to me. The print date needs to be at least the day of the game or before. And you see it when Nolan Ryan had his final game, it was in Seattle, and the Mariners printed off a ton of after-the-fact tickets. And a lot of the Nolan Ryan final game tickets are after the fact printed. So, I mean, that's something to look at if you're
that's good to know.
Yeah.
The other thing I kind of notice is, I feel with so much focus on the debut tickets, I feel like the non-debut tickets are kind of relatively being left behind a little bit, or not a little undervalued. I mean, is that what you're thinking?
I've actually shifted my interest to first in careers of the first hit of a player, or first home run, or first win if they were a pitcher, or in football, first touchdown or whatever.
Or NBA first field goal.
Yeah, those are actually, I think, really undervalued, because they have the same kind of high demand, low supply as they, as debuts. It's the same sort of thing because nobody was really paying attention when Frank Thomas got his first hit. I recently won the auction on eBay for the Al Kaline first hit. I don't know if you saw that one, but I won that auction because Al Kaline's first hit to me is just as scarce as his debut. And so I thought it was really cool. It went for a tiny fraction of what his actual debut would have gone for. So that's a good example of, a lot of other tickets are really, really not insanely high priced, and there's a lot to collect out there that's still
right. And especially with NFL guys who may have just came in garbage time, like Brady.
Yeah.
He really didn't do anything, but the next game he threw his first TD, first start, first win, all that kind of stuff. So it makes it kind of interesting, especially I think NFL. NBA, I know like the Kobe first field goal, because he didn't score his first game. That's pretty rare and expensive.
And why wouldn't that be just as important as his debut? The first time he scored an NBA point, that's pretty remarkable. His first go.
Right.
Yeah, that's one focus that I've definitely moved towards since debuts. I'm just priced out of them. I can't, it's insane the amount of money they have to spend on it. So, a good example.
Well, I think we've, had a good, we're about 30, 40 minutes in. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and, pop them off. I don't know if there will be. I know somebody posted something earlier. I know, are you looking to buy anything going forward? Anything on your radar?
There's a couple auctions I'm looking at, but I don't anticipate them going to be, in my price range. But, I'm always paying attention. What about you?
No, I always use the eBay. I save certain things, historic games. I've been always been looking for the Dirk debut, the finals, game 6, if it ever pops up, the collector. Like talk about the Secretariat, other, random debuts, just like everybody else. Just keeping an eye on things. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been looking at. But nothing.
What do you think the next big one is? Let's say the next $100,000 debut.
If that Jordan Red ever comes out, I think definitely. Even, a nice looking Jordan maybe could. I don't know. I think it would have to be one of these. If somebody put a Jackie up, we definitely would hit 100. Kind of the top ones we talked about. I guess Sean, they have a question for you. You see it on there?
One ticket you traded that if you had it to do over again, you wouldn't. Yeah, my Tom Brady debut. You remember that one?
Hey, this one, right?
Yeah. I would definitely.
Hey, it brought it together. So, I see another one. Do you think there's demand for a rookie season ticket since debut is so rare? Perhaps new collectors will care to pick up, say, MJ, Bird, Mantle rookie season tickets as more like lower tier rookie.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think we're already seeing that with Jordan rookie tickets. There's a lot of people who collect Jordan tickets just in general, and so Jordan, just some random ticket in his rookie year actually goes for quite a bit, surprisingly. Definitely in the hundreds.
I think that's a cool thing to collect is like every game of their rookie season because it's such a unique year. It was like first year in the NBA, first everything. So I'm definitely on board with people who are looking for, every Jordan rookie year, if you're a Luka guy, or basically anybody, really. I think that's kind of a cool collection.
Yeah, and definitely achievable, especially for NFL guys when there's only, 16 games. But definitely a good idea.
Another question we have, what do you feel about using media credentials as supplements for game tickets since printed tickets are so scarce in this digital age? I think it's a decent second option. I don't think it'll ever be good as tickets, but definitely has some value. I know like Darren Ravel is a big collector, and he has a Secretariat Belmont media credential because they didn't have tickets apparently. And I think that holds great value. So I think there definitely is. It's a nice fallback If there absolutely is no tickets out there, well, you're going to go with the next best thing, which would be a media credential, which got somebody into the game.
Yeah. What do you think the difference is between that and, a ticket? Why is it less desired?
I guess it's something you had to purchase. You had a designated seat. You were a fan of the game.
Yeah.
Maybe those all roll into it. The media is, like I said, it's free. It's more of a general thing that was received. It usually has the person's exact name on it, but sometimes it doesn't. But I think it's definitely a good second option. It's not as good as the first.
What I guess for me, it took some special kind of status to have it. Whereas a ticket, anybody could have bought it and gone to the game. Whereas a media credential, you had to be, a member of the media to get it originally. So it kind of changes it. It's not quite the same to me, but still cool collection for sure. Especially if it's designated for one particular game that was historic,
Yeah.
So,
well, all right. I don't see any other questions, but I think this was a good talk. I know a lot of people have been talking about debuts. We wanted to dive into it. Maybe next week we'll get to our top 10, unless there's some other crazy auction or something going on.
Yeah.
But probably Wednesday or Thursday or next week, we'll have a little more discussion on what's going on in the ticket world.
Yeah.
And maybe the Mariners will have a playoff game, and we won't be able to do it.
Well,
you'll be at the game.
Boston just lost, so it got a little bit better.
Boston lost. Man, look out.
They lost 2 games to the Orioles. Crazy.
Wow. Falling apart and choking.
Great. Yeah, hopefully I'm not available next week because I'm at
hopefully.
All right. Cool.
All right. Well, good luck to the Mariners. Thanks for everybody who checked in. And ideally, Wednesday or Thursday next week, we'll try to do it again.
Yeah. See you then.
All right. See you then.